All right. Welcome in, everyone. My name is Tashana Johnson. I'm with the Whole U. Um, I, we are the Wellbeing team and engagement team for UW faculty and staff. So glad to be in space with you all today, welcoming Ruth Kaneko from BECU to present on better budgeting. Ruth, please take it away. I'll be here to help facilitate, but so looking forward to you. Thank you.
Wonderful. Thank you, Tashana. Appreciate it. Good afternoon, everybody. I was about to say good morning. Good afternoon. Hope you all are doing well on this lovely kind of rainy Seattle, Washington weather day, which is lovely. Um, very glad to be here today. My name is Ruth Kaneko. I'm one of the financial educators here at BECU. Been with BECU now or in the financial industry for about 13 years now, and we get to do things like this, right? Do presentations about one of my favorite topics is about budgeting, right? So I'm very glad you came here today just because budgeting is such a big topic, right? There's lots of facets to it. Everybody usually does it differently, right? Everybody has a different kind of money perspective and how they work with money, how they use it, how they see it, how they maybe overuse it, underuse it, whatever it is. So we're going to talk a lot about different tips today that we've learned along the way. So we're going to just get started. I am a UW alumni. Whoop, whoop. Love UW. So very excited every year to be able to come back here and do a presentation for you all. So ask questions along the way if you have any. Feel free to ask questions in the chat or in the Q&A section. I think in the chat is probably going to be the easiest, and we'll get to those. We're going to do probably Q&A throughout the presentation and then at the end as well. So here we go. So first off, a question for you all, what percentage of American households do you think follow a budget? And what I want you to do is go ahead and type it in the chat. What percentage do you think of Americans' households follow a budget? And I am going to wait until I see lots of answers. Oh, nice. I'm seeing 5%, 10, 30. Nice. Oh, one person was very high. They said 80%, but I'm seeing mostly like under 50% numbers, which was what I would have guessed, right? So good guesses, everybody. I'm impressed. So 5, 10, or 20. Okay, so what is the actual number? Look at this. So we got pretty close. I'm pretty impressed. It said only 41% of American households follow a budget. However, 93% of everyone says they need a budget, right? And this is typically what we always see is that, oh, we do need a budget, but I don't have one yet. Or so it's kind of an interesting statistic, right? Although I know I'm pretty sure during times of like inflation, like it is right now, we're probably maybe seeing more budgeting, or hopefully more budgeting as people have more expenses. Maybe they're so we'll talk about that in a little bit as well. So, real quick, what are we going to talk about today? We're going to talk about setting financial goals. We're going to talk about, oops, sorry, there we go. We're going to talk about, sorry, we're going to look at a case study and creating a spending plan. Really, sometimes it's easy just to, or hard actually, to listen to a person talk about budgeting, but not kind of visualize it. So we're going to look at a case study. We're going to look at some money management tips to wrap it up at the end as well. But the first thing I kind of want to get an idea of is where are all of you at in your budgeting adventure, right? Are you new to budgeting? Tell me in the chat. Are you new to budgeting? Are you in that I am an expert at budgeting, I just need some more tips? Are you in that what is a budget? How do I work it? What my money is just going wherever it wants to. Where are you at? Nice. I'm seeing a lot of people say like mid-range in the UGG phase. I love it. Wishful budgeter. Oh, I'm gonna use that. I'm sorry. That's fantastic. Wishful budgeter. Budgeting and I don't get along. I keep trying. I know it's like a terrible relationship, right? Give and take, mostly take, give. You know, I love that. College savings, no budgeting, aspirational budgeting. Yes, number one for wishful budgeter. Absolutely. So thank you for letting me know where you're at because so many of us, we think, oh, some people have it all together. Most people don't. I mean, let's be honest with ourselves. So let's just kind of most of the times we look at budgeting, or at least I did, as I used to think of budgeting as was a diet, right? It told me that I couldn't buy the things I wanted to buy. So we're gonna kind of flip that on its head, and we're gonna try to look at budgeting as making our money work for us instead of against us, because we always think budgeting as a negative sometimes, like ugh, right? So we're going to kind of flip that around and think, okay, how can I make my money work for us? So let's kind of jump into ways that we can do that. Number one, I would always say is setting financial goals. And people usually think, wait, why are we talking about goals? Aren't we talking about like expenses, money coming in, things like that? The reason why you want to look at your goals and think about your what your goals are in life is because your goals really are what propels and sets up your budget. In other words, if one of your goals is to be out of debt or pay off a $10,000 credit card in let's see 2 years, your budget is going to look quite a bit different than if you're
It's so hard.
right.
I'm just gonna be
Exactly.
frank with you. Once I get through, and I'll
It is. It is so hard, right? It's so hard with creating that budget, creating those goals. So if you look at those goals and think, okay, my goal is to get out of debt in 5 years, your budget is going to look completely different maybe than somebody who says, my goal is to take a vacation to Oregon in 5 years or in 7 months, right? So your goals set up your budget. So let's kind of talk about goals a little bit. Now, who on this webinar typically has ever said in their life, someday I'm going to take a vacation, or someday I'm going to pay off that debt, or someday I'm going to do this? Has anybody ever said that? Yes or no? Tell me in the chat. Have you said someday I'm going to this or that? Yes. Okay, good. Honest people. Thank you. So yes, we all say someday because, and when does someday day normally happen? Right? When does it normally happen? Do we have a time frame around this? Well, exactly. Well, someday. Exactly. Never. One person said yes. Usually never because we don't put a time frame around it, right? We just kind of leave our goals up to chance. So the thing with goals is that you really want to get as specific as you can with your goals, meaning that a lot of times you want to set a time frame around it specifically because with your goals, you want to say, hey, I'm going to accomplish you by this much amount of time. So when for the financial goals, set them up into time frames, short term, medium term, and long term. So short term being up to 3 years, medium 3 to 5, and long term 5+, right? So these are the time frames you want to have when you're looking at your goals. And like I said, you want to get as specific as you possibly can because if you just say, I want to get out of debt, well, there's lots of like XYZ to that phrase. So you want to be able to say, okay, in 3 months, I want to pay off this $500 credit card. In 6 months, I want to pay off this credit card, right? So be as specific as you can. How much is it going to cost? Set time frames around it. We just talked about that. And then have accountability. How are you going to stay on track? How are you going to be like, no, I need to put this money aside for this goal, not for this goal right now, right? How are you going to stay on track with your goals? Have that accountability. So my next question to you all is what are your financial goals? So if I was to ask you, if we were to sit down in the coffee shop and I was to say, what are your financial goals? Tell me what one of your financial goals is and try to be as specific as you can. Instead of just saying, I want to pay off college or I want to pay off my debt or I want to go on vacation. Tell me a specific goal and try to put them in time frames that we just talked about, the 3 to 5 to 20 years, right? So tell me what's one of your goals that you can think of. And they could be any of those time frames, three, short term, medium term, and long term. Nice. Able to quit job and stay at home in 3 to 5 years. Oh, that's lovely. Isn't that great? Oh my gosh, we're gonna talk. No, I have two little ones, and it's amazing how much yeah, I hear you. I don't know if it's for little ones or just for in general, but yeah, good goal. Pay off all of your debt in 3 years. Yes, saving for a down payment on a house. No time frame on this one yet, but good goal. Saving for a down payment. With that, I would say how much you saving for down payment. What is the amount that you want to save? So you have that in your mind, right? Because if we say, for instance, again, I want to have my debt paid off, or I want to pay off my debt. Well, what if we say to ourselves, I want to pay off a $500 credit card in 6 months? All of a sudden, in your brain, your long division kicked in. Okay, $500 6 months. How much do I have to put aside each month to be able to, how much do I have to pay each month to get out of that debt, right? All of a sudden, your brain goes, do, 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 do. Oh, okay, I got it. I can do this, right? So you have a plan. Oh, I like this. Put money in my retirement account so I can retire in 25 years. Saving for a down payment on a house again. Take a vacation pay all cash in the next 6 months. Woohoo for vacations. Yes. Um, love that. Thank you for putting those goals in. How did that feel? How did that feel to get those kind of goals out of your head and into on your computer or writing those down? How did that feel? That feel foreign? Pretty good? The reason I say that is because a lot of people tend to not write down their goals. And the reason I bring that up is because statistically, it's actually proven that your goals will be more successful if you write them down, right? So getting them, we all have our goals inside of our head, but if you can write them down, get them outside and write them down, they're more successful to be able to be achieved, right? All right, so thank you for writing those down. Keep those goals in the forefront of your brain because we're going to work with them in this area. Now, let's kind of take a look at a case study. Now, what do I mean by case study? I mean, let's kind of take a look at an example of a couple people of their budget, right? So let's say this is a couple. They're step one. Now we have what's at BECU we have a goal, what's called a BECU budget planner, and I can send that out to you later. Actually, I'm gonna send it to Tashana, and she's gonna be able to send it out to you if you'd like. It's a BECU budget planner, and it literally goes step by step on how to create a budget. Okay, so step one again, like we were saying, is always goals. Is to write down your goals, and you're gonna see the section here when you have it. It's like short-term goals, medium-term goals, long-term. So this couple said that they family trip to Disneyland. Their short-term save $100 a month. That's their ASAP goal. Is like right now we want to save $100 a month. And medium-term goals, they want to be debt-free. They want to buy a car. And long term, they want to pay for college and retire, right? I'm assuming maybe they want to pay for college for the kids, maybe, and then retirement. Usually, those are the two biggest things in long term goals. So those are their long term goals. Step number two when you're budgeting, of course, is always looking at your income, right? How much do you make? What's your income so you can be able to focus on how much you can spend, okay? So in this case, one person makes $2,000 a month, one person makes $1,960. So combined, they make about they make $3,960, okay? So keep that number in your head real quick. That's how much they make. Now, of course, whenever you're looking at your net income, whenever you're looking at your income, you want to think of net, of course, not gross. The one thing we highly encourage people to do is not to include things like overtime or bonuses because they're just not so they're not guaranteed sometimes. And I know my dad, he was a good old Boeing worker, right? And he had overtime all the time and he banked on that overtime. And one of course, with Boeing, they have layoffs and then they hire you back. And so he got laid off and he all of a sudden didn't have that income or those bonuses. And then he was hired back, but he didn't have those bonuses or overtime. So try to keep that separate, right, if you can. And always think, of course, your net monthly income. A lot of people will ask, well, I'm on commission, right? Commission-based income, or I maybe a waitress, I work off of tips, or a waiter, I work off of tips, right? So the thing with that is you definitely always want to think maybe looking at your income, usually like an average of a 3-month span. How much do I have over like my 3 months average? What is that, right? That's usually a good way to look at. Step number 3 is you're basically going to look at your basic monthly expenses. Now, these are pretty easy, right? You want to look at your monthly expenses, things that you spend money on every single month. And you're going to notice here in this list of things, this budget planner that we have, there is a plethora of expenses that you have, like we all do. So, for instance, toiletries, cosmetics, household items, pet food care, rent, savings, life insurance, healthcare, medical copay. There's all of these things. Now, if I were to put all of these expenses in here right now, we would never be done with this webinar. So I just put in a couple of these to be able to to just show us for an example of what you would do. But of course, your basic monthly expenses, rent usually is in there. Things like electricity, groceries, gasoline, and then what you want to do with these basic monthly expenses is, of course, you want to add them all up. Now you want to add them all up here, and you're going to get your grand total, right? Now, the one thing I love to do is, especially even before you do this step, is look at something called like a 30-day spending journal. A 30-day spending journal is one of those things where for 30 days, you write down every single thing that you spend your money on. If it's a 50-cent can of pop, if it's a bag of chips, whatever it is, write it down. You can write down your phone, the notes section, whatever you gotta do. Write down that at the end of 30 days, you're gonna go through those and you're like, oh, that's where my money goes, right? That's how much I actually spend. I did this and I thought I spent $50 a month on coffee and I actually spent $200 a month on coffee. So yeah, I kind of need to kick back in that area. So that was one of those kind of clarifying moments of, oh, that's why I'm not able to save as much as I thought I was going to. So definitely try that. And then what you want to do is go back here and you basically, again, put in all of your expenses. And so for instance, this couple makes or for their basic monthly expenses, they pay $3,060. So that's how much they spend per month, okay, on just the basics right here. Next up is step 4. Now, this is definitely probably the number one reasons why budgets fail in the US, okay? Now, everybody, here we go. Tell me in the chat, um, who has a birthday? Actually, can you raise your hand? I think we can do hand like emojicons maybe. Tell me in the chat, oh, there we go. Okay, go. All right. I love it. One person's like, I usually have once per year. Good. All right. Tell me if you have a birthday. Raise your hand if you have a birthday. Perfect. I'm seeing lots of hands. All right. Now, go and lower your hand. Now, raise your hand if you know somebody with a birthday. Good. Just getting you all worked up. Good. Now, Chloe, put them down. Now, tell me if you buy that person the gift that you know who has somebody who has a birthday. Good. Now, keep your hand raised. Keep your hand raised. Now, keep your hand raised if you budget for that gift every year. Oh, good honest people. Oh, look at that. I think one still is up. Oh, no, there it goes. It's gone. Oh, my goodness. Thank you. You good honest people, right? That's the thing. We know our brother is not going to, his birthday is not going to change like next year. It's always going to be January 1st. We always know this, right? But for some reason, we don't budget for it, right? We don't say, oh, I should probably put some money away. This is how it usually happens. Oh, my brother's birthday's coming around. I got to get a gift. Oh, what am I going to do? I'll just figure it out. That's what we usually do, right? I'll figure it out. So I don't want you to have to figure it out. This is what these periodic expenses are for. So step number 4 is this. You write down every single thing you can. This is January through December. And you write down every single thing that you spend money on throughout the year, right? These are not your every month expenses. These are your once per year, twice per year expenses, right? These are things like your, let's see, your vehicle tabs. If you drive, you got to get your registration updated, right? Your maybe car oil changes, your $50, isn't that funny? Oil changes, your hair salon fees, your clothing, gifts, things like that. So these are things that you're going to want to budget for. So let's kind of go down here. You want to put them all the expenses you can think of. And then again, same thing, you total them up. So you go down the very bottom and you get the monthly totals of how much that's going to cost you. You add those all up and you're going to notice that this couple has to pay or has to budget $5,150 per year to afford these expenses, right? So you see what I'm saying? See my budget? You know, that's not a little chunk of change. That's a nice hefty chunk of change. Now, deep breath, you do not have to come up with all this at one time. You just divide it by 12, and basically you have to put aside $430 per month to be able to afford these, right? So do you see why periodic expenses are one of the number one reasons why budgets fail in the US? Because we just don't take these into account. Again, these are those kind of expenses, right? Ugh. So this is a great way. This is one of those things you definitely want to think about. You want to divide that by 12. Now, the cool thing about this is I'm going to show you a way to be able to account for those and some of the things you can do to make it a little easier on yourselves, right? So step number 5, outstanding debt. Let's go switch to number 5. Now, step number 5 is outstanding debt. This is, of course, where you want to put down any debt that you have on your, and yes, this is definitely within your budgeting realm. You definitely want to put down the debt that you have. Student loans, car loans, auto loans, Visa cards, anything here. If you owe your sister $200 for something she bought you like 5 years ago, put that down because you know it's always going to be in the back of your mind. It's right there. It's always going to be there until you're like 90 unless you pay her off. So put that down, write it down. Biggest thing you want to do is write down the creditor's name, the balance, the monthly payment, the due date, and especially the interest rate, because that's going to come into play with the debt payoff strategy you want to choose, okay? So put the interest rate there, and then you're going to, of course, total it up. The grand total for them is $21,700. The monthly payment is $655. So be able to afford, they have allotted $655 to put towards their debt every single month, okay? So keep that in mind. Now, step number 6 is going to be the spending worksheet. This is where the rubber meets the road. This is where you're going to kind of tally up and say, oh, am I over budget? Am I under budget? Where am I looking, right? So remember, their net monthly income was $3,960. Their basic monthly expenses to be able to afford those was $3,060. So they had a total of $900 left, right? Next, they had that periodic expenses. So I think we got them to $430. So they had a total of $470 left. Then we have the debt. And remember, they allotted $655 for that debt. So now, well, of course, they're over, right? They're negative in their budget. Now, we can all agree, probably at this point, that, we never want to be negative in our budget. Of course, we don't want to be negative because then, unfortunately, a lot of times we reach for those credit cards and then our credit cards start becoming our backups, right? Our backups. And our backups start becoming every single month backups, right? Or I just need to pay my bill with my credit card because I just need to. So we don't want to be in that area. Trust me, I've been there, done that. We don't want to be there because it's just a cycle we get into. So if we are over in our budget, we really want to look at focusing on those goals that we have. That's one of the biggest things. Again, you want to go back to your goals and think, okay, what are my goals? Are my goals to get out of debt, get a house, retire, put enough money aside to quit my job, right? What are my goals right now? So I have to focus on those so I can get in a healthier position for myself. So focus on your goals, get creative, and cut back, not out. A lot of times, people will just say, "Oh, well, if you're in debt or if you need to budget better, just cut out things. Stop buying those sweets. Stop buying coffee." Yeah, that's never gonna happen. That's never gonna happen, right? I mean, if somebody told me, Ruth, you can't have a Starbucks anymore, I'd be like, yeah, go away, right? There's not a chance that's gonna happen. But you can say you can cut out, right? You just can't cut back. So be creative with yourself. Be nice to yourself, I would definitely say. So cut back, not out. So here's one thing I want to look at. If we go back to the basic monthly expenses, now this is where we get creative, right? You go back to your worksheet, and again, there's nothing wrong if you find yourself that you're in a position where you don't want to be with your budget, go back to it, revisit it. I always say if you are something's going on with your budget that you don't like it, go back to the drawing board. That's what a lot of us do. So a lot of people will say, well, once you set a budget, you're good for life. No. Budgets are usually good for a couple months. I would say usually I revisit my budget every 3 months just to make sure there's nothing that's changed, right? Oh, hey, look, I'm gonna have a baby. I gotta change my budget up, right? Or oh, look, I just bought another car, or things like that. You want to be able to budget, or your budget needs to fit your life, okay? All right, so here we go. Step number 3, going back to your basic monthly expenses. Now, in the world where, I don't know, prices were not skyrocketing in some areas, we could be, it might be a little easier. Nowadays, if you look at all these basic monthly expenses, I want you all to kind of look at these, and I want you to tell me where you could potentially make some cutbacks. So you notice I did a little bit already, but where could you make some cutbacks and why? What are some areas that you could make some cutbacks in? Like, would it be, how could you do it in your mortgage? How could you maybe pet care, pet food, your cell phone bill? Tell me an area, where could it be? And seasonally, I love this. One person was saying, I love the idea of updating it seasonally. Absolutely, because seasonally, I don't know about you, but my family's huge on birthdays. We are like a birthday fanatics. And so I literally have to have like a birthday budget for my family because I know that it's coming around, and they all have birthdays in like February or like fall and winter, right? So those are the big months. So yes, seasonal is a fantastic way to look at that. I love that. All right, so tell me one area where I could potentially cut back on. And tell me in the chat, meals out. Yes, where's my meals out? There we go. Meals out. So they were spending $200 on meals. Absolutely. How could you get yourself down on going out or on meals out, Liberty Goods? I mean, you know how easy it is. DoorDash, we know it's your best friend. It was my best friend, trust me. And then I realized, oh my goodness, I'm paying way more. My husband's favorite argument was, oh, we're getting a discount on DoorDash right now, or one of those delivery services. Ooh, we should get takeout. And I'm like, I'm already thinking about, I already have food made. Why are we doing takeout? Oh, but it's a discount. I'm like, yeah, but if we buy it, we weren't going to buy it originally, so we kind of had to rethink that for a second. It was funny. Anyway, so yeah, meals out for sure. How can you get meals out? So while you're putting in the chat, how could you take them down or cut back on the meals out? I remember my husband and I first started, or we were first married, we would of course go out on Friday night because Friday night was the fun night, after work, and we get to go this is before kids, and we would go eat, and it was the atmosphere was happening, and it was just great. And then we realized we were spending way more money than we thought we were going to. So we thought, oh, well, let's try this. Let's try going out on a Monday. I know this sounds silly, but we were trying to get creative. So we went out on a Monday and we realized it was a lot calmer environment and we were spending less money. Like we weren't getting the second appetizer or like, hey, let's get this and this. We were just enjoying ourselves, right? Because it was quieter and it was Monday's a hard day. Can I get a hand raise on that? Monday's a hard day. So sometimes you need that little extra, boop, boop, right? That little extra, oh, thank you. Exactly. You need that little time to kind of regroup on a Monday. So I love that. And so we got a little creative. I love this. Limiting to 2 times a month or doing pickup orders versus food delivery. Yes. Oh my goodness, you could save so much money if you're gonna do meals out. Go pick it up yourself. Oh my goodness, so true. I always have freeze ahead meals for when you don't want to make anything you've already made. Oh, great idea. I love that. Ooh, do happy hour instead of dinner. Yes. And they got those cute little happy hour things. I mean, who doesn't love a happy hour? Yes, exactly. So happy hour instead of dinner. You get lots of food for the half the price. Perfect. All right, so that's a great way of doing that. Now, some people think, well, what about mortgage, right? How do I get my mortgage or rent down? And some, like my coworker, she had an extra room in her house and she rented it out to somebody. That was an option, although she said she rented it out 2 different times, one to a family member and one to not a stranger, but somebody she knew. Which one do you think actually paid rent? Just kidding. But no, it was the not family member. Anyways, but she definitely, she rented out. Sometimes that's an option, sometimes that's not. But things like gasoline, how do we cut back on things like gasoline? Taking fewer trips, with making more planned kind of visits, right? Nice. And then one person was saying, ooh, yes, having auto pay set up gives you a little bit of a discount. Yes, exactly. That's a great one right there. Thank you. Yes, auto pay. A lot of times companies, if you have auto pay set up with like if it's a bill pay or things like that, they would give you a slight discount on the cost, right? Or on your bill. Exactly. Very good. Man, this is a good group. Y'all are smart. I find that deleting apps can help with spending. I have to delete my Amazon Target apps. Oh, you just hit me where it hurt. But it's true. Yeah. So one of the things we always talk about is one of the best ways to budget, and this is so hard, is delinking your debit cards from these online merchants like Amazon or Target. Yeah, shots fired. Thanks. I'm not ready. Me either. But here's the thing. I didn't delete my app, but if you delete your debit card or your credit card from from Amazon, here's the thing. I'm kind of lazy when it comes to getting up off the couch when I'm relaxing. So if I am on my phone on Amazon and I'm like, oh, I love those socks. Oh, they're wool. What? I need those. And if I am deleting my debit card from my Amazon app and my purse is over hanging on the wall or hanging on the doorknob, right? There is no way on this earth that I'm going to walk up, get off the couch, go get my debit card, come back to the couch, and type my digits in off my debit card. There's no way. I know what I'm going to do is like, I don't need it, right? Because I would probably be that lazy for sure. I've done that. So make it hard on yourself, right? Delinking those cards, very, very true. Oh, I like this. I've also been told to unsubscribe from emails so you don't see those sale emails. Oh my goodness, especially around the holidays. That's so great. So great. Exactly. So, but then this one person was saying, but then we won't save money, right? If you see those when the sales are happening, it's a give and take, right? Don't go get it if you don't need it, but you know when to shop the sales for sure. Love that. All right, so if we look at these, thank you so much, by the way, everybody. Such great ideas. So if you look at that and you go around here, and you're going to notice that I got them down just a little bit, right? We got them down. So for instance, I remember this couple wanted to save $100 ASAP. So they saved $100 here. So we added, so I think we got them down a little bit for groceries. When you go grocery shopping, what's the best way to cut down groceries? Don't shop hungry. Do you know what I'm talking about? You know what I'm talking about. When you go shopping for food and you shop hungry, you're getting like those package of Pringles because they're in the middle of the shopping aisle and they're like, oh, these things look, you don't normally get Pringles, but you're like, oh, this just tastes good. This is just sounds good. Um, I love that. I don't need to buy a candle monthly from Bed Bath & Beyond. We'll talk later. Okay, just kidding. But yes, right? A lot of times when you're shopping for food, shopping on the perimeter is always the best way to go, unless you actually need to go in the middle of the store, because stores are very smart. They actually keep you. They want to keep you there for as long as possible. That's because that's why they have on that fun kind of elevator music. So they put this elevator music on for you to like shop down and down each aisle. But in reality, all the stuff you actually need is around those perimeters, right? So you got the milk that's way in the back because I know you're going to need to go way in the back to get that milk, so you have to go well all through the aisles to get it, right? Now, given pasta is definitely something you want to buy, so it's in an aisle, but you want to be very strategic about your buying. Don't let them get you. All right, love this. One person was saying my mom always made meal plans around what sales the grocery stores were having. That's a fantastic idea. I love that. These are such great ideas. Give your mom a hug for sure. Gasoline, we talked a little bit about that. We talked a little bit about cell phone plans. Now, we're going to talk about this a little bit later, but cell phone plans and insurance, car insurance. A lot of times when you have either one of those, sometimes you might be paying more than you need to. One of the things we always recommend is actually checking on your cell phone bill and your car insurance bill to see if there's ever any discounts you can get. There was this one guy, I remember he came to one of these webinars and he said that he had a ticker on his phone for every 3 months, and he would, actually more probably now during inflation, but he would check every 3 months and he would check on his cell phone provider and his car insurance. He'd call them up and be like, hey, are there any discounts I can apply? And he would look at his plan and be like, do I need this unlimited? Do I need this thing? And he said it was probably about 80-20. Like 20% of the time they'd say yes, there is. 80% of the time they'd say no. One person was saying works for cable internet too. Yeah. Ironically on that, do you ever find that, we all had cable at one time in our lives when we were younger, and then all of a sudden we all went to cutting cable, went to these subscription plans, and then now we have like 10 plans, which is the same cost as the cable. It's kind of funny how we did that, right? Sign up for AAA membership discounts. I love that. That's a great idea too. But yeah, so he went and he called his cable, his insurance provider, and again, 80-20 rule. 80% of the time they said, no, we don't have any discounts. 20% of the time we said, they said, yes, they do. So you can always ask. They're never going to call you up and be like, hey, I got a discount for you. Oh no, they're going to call, you have to call them up and be your own advocate for sure. All right, step number 4. You gotta look at those periodic expenses. Now again, this is the fun one, right? Look at these different expenses that I have on the screen. Now, tell me one place that you could potentially get these expenses down, or tell me one place where you could potentially get one of these expenses down. Would it be the hair salon? Would it be the, let's see, special entertainment? Would it be clothing? Where would it be? Any ideas? Let's see. Oh, I like that. Clothing and gifts. Those are usually the first 2 to go, right? Or not go, but clothing, gifts, vacation, entertainment. You can find amazing things at the thrift store. Oh my goodness, yes. Oh my goodness, for sure. Love that. Let's see, how could you, so, the thing is we always need a vacation. How could we get cut back on vacation? Now, this couple looks like they take a vacation, they took a large vacation in July, right? Now, I'm not saying cut that out by any means. Maybe how could they cut back? I love how one person said in the chat that one of their goals was to save up the money for their budget, or I'm sorry, save up the money for their vacation so that you can just spend the money that you've saved on that. As opposed to a lot of times people unfortunately will put their vacation on a credit card, and then they'll be paying off that credit card for the next 5 to 10 years, long after some of those memories are gone, right? Of that wonderful vacation. So yeah, trying to figure out what you can do for that is fantastic. Also, offer up also great things too. I love that idea. For sure. So if we look at these, we can get them down right, like you all were saying, shop the sales, like clothing. Of course, you want to shop the sales. There was this guy, I remember, he had two little girls, and he told me that whenever his girls, they were really little, like 4 and 6 or something, and he would go to the store and he would buy their winter coats, and he would kind of measure the girls to see how much he thinks they would grow, and he would go buy their winter coats in like like springtime when it was super cheap when they were like 75% off these little girl coats, little coats. And he goes, he saved like $100 on these coats, right? It's a lot of money that he saved. And what he'd do is he would wrap them up for his daughters, and he would put these little boxes of these wrapped gifts under, in the closet or wherever he put them. And every year they'd be like, yay, once he would give them to him right at the beginning of winter. And he said he saved a lot of money. It was just one of those fun things you could do where being a little frugal, right? There was one mom, I remember she said that she used to tell her kids, turn off the money whenever they would walk out of the room. Like, turn off those lights, turn off the money, right? She would kind of get creative with her kids. Always a good thing to do. Ooh, I love that. One person was saying for your hair, for salons, make appointments at a cosmetology school. Great idea, because whenever somebody's cutting your hair at a cosmetology school, they have to have usually an instructor behind them watching them and helping them facilitate this haircut. So you get really good service, probably more, probably better service actually, because you're at a school. Awesome, thank you. And then special entertaining, like maybe you play golf, maybe you play bingo, whatever it is. I didn't say cut it out, just cut that back. See if you can maybe, if you golf, play 9 holes instead of 18, maybe walk instead of ride, right? So lots of little things you can do there too. So I love this. So again, you just want to add the totals up at the very bottom, and so you'll notice that we got them down a little bit. So we got them down to $4,680. So if you notice, we're not like taking this huge, oh my gosh, we completely changed our budget. No, we're just getting them down to a more manageable level. So this is the amount they're going to spend per year. Divided by 12, this is how much they have to put away per month for those expenses, okay? Now, you may be thinking, okay, how do I do my periodic expenses? So a lot of people, they will do it different ways. Now, my coworker actually turned me on to this. She said that what she does, and I don't know where you bank, but like BECU, you can have as many savings and checking accounts for free. So what she did, she actually opened up a separate checking account. She nicknamed it, because usually you can nickname your accounts. She nicknamed it, and she nicknamed it periodic expenses, right? And what she did, since this was a checking account, she got a separate debit card for this account. And she actually wrote on the back of this card, periodic expense. And she got the different color. I think it was for her regular checking account, it was like a red card. For her periodic expense, it was a UW Husky card, right? So every time her son's birthday came around, which card is she going to pull out? Her regular card or her periodic expense card? Her periodic expense card, exactly, because that is the card she's been putting money aside so that she can be able to afford these expenses, right? That's kind of one of those cool things I did. Oh, nice. Yes, one person was saying they have 6 different accounts for different expenses, fun accounts. So that's actually what I do. So she does this method. I love this method, but I actually tried something different. I have like 7 different savings accounts. Okay, probably about 10. And what I do is I nickname them. So like this one person was saying, I do the same thing. Like I got one for house, one for car, one for clothes, one for food. And every time you get paid, you have an automatic payment or automatic transfer that goes right into those accounts because you budgeted for it and you know exactly how much you have to spend in each account. Once that bill comes due, you can just transfer that money back into your checking account and then pay for that, right? So it's kind of nice for me, for all of us. We have a lot going on in life, right? There's a lot of stuff happening. So what we need to do is we need to give ourselves a little break and try to find out ways that we can make budgeting easier on ourselves, right? Like that, separating out your accounts. For me, that was a lot easier to do. At one point, I had a baby account, right? So I put me inside for diapers before my baby was due, and thank goodness. And then I was like, oh, okay, after baby was due, then I changed the nickname of that. I said I went school, like school for the little one, or saving money for college. So you can change the name, you can do things like that, but this is kind of a good way to do that. Ooh, I love it. One person was saying I have separate savings accounts for different periodic expenses. Yep, same thing, like kids, house, pets. Perfect. Absolutely. Nice. Now, once you go and you do the periodic expenses, you figure out what you want to do for that, then go back to your step 5, which is your outstanding debt, right? Now, with your debt, we're going to move through this a little fast because I know we're going to leave room for questions at the end. But again, like I said, you want to look at your debt, because what you want to do is you want to look at what are some different debt payoff strategies, especially when you're looking at your debt, right? I say that because there are a couple different strategies out there. I was in debt over my eyebrows after school. It was ridiculous. I thought this got to be an easier way. I always, for some reason, had this $500 credit card at Macy's that never came down. It was always at $500. I always used it and then paid someone off, and then it went back up again. So I was like, I gotta get this thing down. So what payoff strategy would you use to bring if one of your goals is get out of debt, even if it's not, look at these payoff strategies for sure. So here's some strategies you can kind of take a look at. So you got your debt snowball, right? Here, this is one payoff strategy. This is where basically you would list all of your debts from the smallest balance to the largest. You would pay the minimum payment on every debt except the smallest debt. So you'd pay as much as you can towards that small one, and then once that's paid off, then you go to the next one. So for instance, if you look at your debt, the debts here that this couple has, you would look at the lowest balance, which is going to be your discount store card. So this is the one that you're going to look at, and you're going to think, and you're going to say to yourself, okay, which account is the smallest balance? So it's going to be this one. Now, let's say, for instance, that you put, I don't know, my grandpa always told me pay more than the minimum on each one of your debts. So let's say that I paid an extra $20 towards here, 20, 40, 60, and I took all that extra $20 that I did towards each one, and I just paid the minimum payment. So I took that $20 here, 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 and here, or here. So 20, 40, 60, 80. Oh, and I'm hearing a little bit of, if you want to go ahead and mute your lines, everybody, and then we'll just make sure, because I'm getting a little bit of feedback. I'm going to make sure everybody can hear you, okay? Perfect. All right, there we go. All right, so what you want to do is go ahead and, again, the $500 discount card. So you take that $28 extra here, 20, 40, 60, 80. So instead of just paying $20 a month towards this discount cost card, which is going to take you forever, you can now have that $80 plus 20, so you got $100. So you're going to have that thing now paid off in like 5 months. So once you pay that off, then you go to the next one, which is going to be your department store card. You take that 20, 40, 60, 80, $100, and you put that $100 towards that discount or department store card. And then you just kind of rinse and repeat. They call it debt snowball because you're kind of gaining momentum as you pay off a debt. I'm telling you, once you pay off a debt, you're like, hallelujah, right? You are, give me that, right? I want to throw myself a party every time I pay off a debt, because you're like, oh, thank goodness it happens. It can happen. So next payoff strategy is your debt avalanche. Same kind of concept, but you're taking your debt with the highest interest rate. So for instance, in this case, it would actually be the department store card that you're going to take first, and then work your way down to the discount store card, and then up to the Visa card. That's why. In this strategy, it's going to take you a little, it's going to save you a little bit more money because of the interest rate, for sure, with the strategy. With the debt snowball, the momentum is kind of more thrilling, I guess. So just depends. Now, you also have the third one, which is a debt cascade option. This is the one where you list all your debts, include the minimum monthly payment, and then as your minimum payment decreases, continue to pay at the original minimum payment owed. So how that works is, how if you get a car, right? You get a payment. You're paying $250 a month. All of a sudden, they're saying maybe you've paid this car loan for 5 years. You've paid on it for 4 years, religiously every month you've paid on time. And they say the lender says, oh, congratulations, since you have paid on time for 4 years, we are now going to lower your payment to $100. You no longer have to owe us $250 a month. You can just pay us $100. And you think to yourself, I totally fell for this. You think to yourself, woohoo, I got $150 back in my pocket. What's the problem with that? What's the problem with only giving them $100 now to pay off that car for another year? Any thoughts on that? Yeah, I was not very smart to figure that out when they first offered it to me, and I totally took it. Exactly. You're not paying off the debt. You're still going to owe interest, and actually elongates that payment, right? So you're going to be paying more interest over the life of that loan. So yeah, you don't want to take that deal. So debt cascade basically teaches you, says continue to pay at the amount owed at the very beginning. So those are the debt payoff strategies. Now, here's another thing. If you go back, if you look at all, so you got your periodic expense, your monthly expenses, your debt payoff strategy figured out. Then you go back to the spending worksheet and you kind of do this adjusted, okay, I adjusted my income or my expenses, and all of a sudden I got myself down to zero. So you have basically accounted for every single dollar that you have. Now, some people would think, oh, zero, that's a terrible number. What if I have an emergency? But here's the thing. With this couple, one of their goals was to save $100 a month for emergencies, right? I would always say save more than you possibly can, but they save $100 or they saved $100 per month for their emergencies. If you have $100 here, if you have $100 left over, and let's say I had $100 showing right here, what would you do with it? Tell me in the chat. What would you do? Let's say you got yourself down to $100 left over, so you're in the positive $100. What would you do with it? Not paying off the debt. Yep. You all are fantastic. Spend it. Treat yourself, right? So in other words, you would do something with it for sure. Candles. You're cracking me up. Need more coffee. Yes, thank goodness. So yes, you are gonna find something to do with it. So here's an idea. Instead of keeping that $100 here, tell it where to go, right? If you want to put it towards a fun fund, do that. You want to put it towards your coffee fund. If you want to put it towards your, take that $100, put it towards paying off your debt, do it, right? Put it somewhere so you have accounted for all the money that you have coming in, because you know as well as I do that money is going to go wherever it wants to, right? So, all right, so keep that in mind. Next up, I know we're running a little up to time, so let's kind of look at some money management tips. Let me know too if you have any questions along the way, and we'll go from there too. All right, number one, here's a couple of money management tips we've come along the way, and especially with prices being, skyrocketing, some costs being more than they were a year ago or even half a year ago. You want to be able to, number one, have those family money talks, have those intentional money talks with people in your family. A spouse, a partner, whoever it may be, your kids. Now, I'm not telling you to tell your kids every single thing about your budget, because if they're like 7 and you're sitting them down saying, okay, now the money we have in this account is not going to be right. Yeah, not going to happen. But have those intentional money talks. Set goals with yourself or with your family, right? I know this one person, she wanted to take a family trip to, I think it was like some theme park, and we'll say Disneyland. And so what she did is she actually, she got her kids together and said, okay, we want to take a family trip to Disneyland. So a couple months later, when the new gaming console came out, her kids came up to her and said, hey mom, can we buy this new gaming console? And she said, we could, or we can put that towards our family Disneyland trip. And they're like, oh, let's put it towards our trip. So it got them kind of involved in it. If you have teenagers or anything like that who you're talking about with money as well, we've got this great thing on our website. It's called The Next Big Talk, about how to work with teenagers with money. Because trust me, I go into a lot of high schools, and high schoolers don't know about money either. And sometimes we don't talk to our kids because we just don't want to give them bad information. But seriously, talk to your kids about money. Some great ways to do that on the website as well. All right, so have those intentional money talks. Loved it. All right, let's see, number 2, have an emergency fund set up. Now, a lot of times people will say, well, what about during this time of inflation? Everything is, the costs. What should I do with savings? Do I continue to save? Do I continue paying my debts down? One of the things I always encourage people to do is have that emergency fund. Now, by having an emergency fund, I would say open a separate, this is what I did. I opened a separate checking or savings account, nicknamed emergency, separate from my savings account, which was for my goals. And I thought, okay, I'm going to start with $200 goal, right? So I would kind of put $5 here, $20 here, $50 here, whatever I can do. Got to $200. Next up, I wanted to go a little further. So I had 500 and then 1,000. And then you have that money in there, only withdraw it for emergencies. This is definitely a great thing to have a separate savings account for emergencies other than savings, because then it really truly has saved it for emergencies. Slow down debt repayment. So this is one of those things I put in here actually recently for inflation, because sometimes people are like, you know what, I'm having troubles deciding whether to pay more towards my debt or groceries, right? And that's never an option you want to have. I would say if you are facing those times, and if you're just, because we're spending more on needs these days, if you need to slow down on your repayment plan, that's okay for right now, right? If you need to slow down that fact, if you don't have to, hashing your debts out, right? Keep trying to get those down. But if you need to, maybe slow down. Keep paying the minimum payment on all the loans. Don't ever stop paying those loans, of course. Your target payoff date on those loans may change because you're paying those off more slowly. But you may need to redirect that money towards the groceries, basic needs, things like that. So keep that in mind. It's okay to do for a certain period of time. Just know that things may change, but you can always get back on track later. Shop around for insurance. We talked about this a little bit. Of course, visit your policy at least once per month. So set a ticker on your phone. Say, womp womp, check your insurance, right? Make sure you only have the coverage you need and challenge your insurance companies. Be like, hey, I saw these people at this insurance company over here do this deal. Can you match me? And they might be able to, right? Reevaluate your cell phone plan. We talked about that earlier. They will never call you. You have to call them. Number 6, look for tools for budgeting. So there's actually if you go on your phone, your cell phone, and you type in your app store or your Play Store, you type the word budgeting, like budgeting app. There's gonna be a plethora of budgeting apps to choose from. Some will cost you, some will not. Sometimes your financial industry might have your financial institution that you work with, that you bank at, has a budgeting app. Possibly, I know BECU does. But find a good app that works for you. And that way you can, it's a great tool to be able to help you in budgeting. Some people still like pencil and paper, which is fine too. Again, everybody has a different method on how they like to budget. And number 7, 1 month at a time. Be proactive in your budgeting. Like I said, budgets are not set in stone. They're going to be a little flexible sometimes. You want them to be solid so that you know exactly how much you make and what your expenses are, your goals are, but also you want to revisit them every 3 months to make sure that they are conducive to your life right now, right where you're at. So don't beat yourself up if for some reason the budget is not working this month. You can always get back up and try it again. Okay, take yourself out for some tea or make some tea at home or coffee or lovely coffee or Starbucks coffee and Starbucks. But yeah, your financial, health definitely will improve and blossom. Just try to take that time out for yourself. Like I said before, a budget is only as good as the effort you put into it up front. Really is. Take some time and effort up front to be able to create a good, healthy budget for yourself, and then it's going to come together, right? That's probably one of the best advice I was ever given was sit down, figure out the budget up front, put some time into it, and then it's going to help you on the way as you go. All right. We actually BC partners with this group called Green Path. I don't know if you're a BC member, but this is actually we work with a credit counseling service. And I know there's other credit counseling services out there that kind of talk to you if you're kind of struggling maybe with your debt payoff strategy, or trying to figure out which one you should choose. This is a great organization. They're nonprofit. And if you don't go to them, just find another nonprofit if you want to look for like a credit counseling service. They can help you with like your working through your budget and things like that too. All right, so I know that was a little fast towards the end. Thanks for hanging there with me, everybody. I'm going to go ahead and open it up for questions. Tashana, I'll go ahead and pass it back over to you. But thank you so much for adding all of your comments in the chat. I love them. You all are on the right track, let me tell you. And I think we had a couple of things real quick. But yeah, Tashana, I'll hand it back over to you.
I so appreciate you, Ruth. This was really great learning. And yeah, I appreciated the chat too. Made us feel like we weren't off by ourselves in the matrix.
Oh my goodness, yes.
I'm going to pause the recording here